السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسأل الله أن يتقبل منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال في هذا الشهر الفضيل. أرحب أنا زيد الرقيب بالحضور الكرام ممثلا عن المركز الوطني للتعليم الإلكتروني من العاصمة الرياض بالمملكة العربية السعودية. يسرنا الليلة أن نقدم لكم هذه الندوة الافتراضية بعنوان من المحتوى المفتوح إلى المسارات المخصصة: الموارد التعليمية المفتوحة والذكاء الاصطناعي لدعم التعلم مدى الحياة، والتي تأتي على هامش الأسبوع العالمي للتعليم المفتوح. في هذه الجلسة سنستعرض دور التعليم المفتوح في توسيع نطاق الوصول وتكافؤ الفرص ودعم التعلم مدى الحياة، ونوضح الفرق بين الوصول المفتوح للمحتوى ومسارات التعلم المخصصة المدعومة بالذكاء الاصطناعي، كما نتناول كيفية الحفاظ على الانفتاح في بيئة معززة بالذكاء الاصطناعي لضمان بقاء الموارد قابلة للمشاركة والتكيف وإعادة الاستخدام. ونتطلع في ختام هذه الجلسة إلى تعزيز فهم أعمق لتكامل التعليم المفتوح من الذكاء الاصطناعي، واستشراف فرص عملية تسهم في دعم مسارات تعلم أكثر شمولا واستدامة. وللتنويه، ستكون الترجمة الفورية للغة العربية ولغة الإشارة متاحة خلال هذه الندوة، وبإمكانكم الآن الضغط على أيقونة الترجمة أسفل الشاشة. Greetings from the National E-Learning Center in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Ramadan Mubarak to everyone joining us. I'm Zaid Rqib. We are delighted to welcome you to this evening's webinar, From Open Content to Personalized Pathways, OER and AI for Lifelong Learning, as part of Open Education Week 2026. In this session, we will explain the role of open education and OER in expanding access, equity, and lifelong learning. We will differentiate between open access to content and AI-enabled personalized learning pathways and explore how to preserve openness in an AI-enhanced environment to ensure resources remain shareable, adaptable, and reusable. We are delighted to welcome the distinguished panelists: Dr. Giovanni Zimotti, Associate Professor of Instruction and Director of Spanish Language Instruction at the University of Iowa; Professor Martin Ebner, Head of Educational Technology at TU Graz; and Professor Ahmed Al-Khatib, Professor of Emerging Technologies and Language Learning at King Faisal University, who will be moderating this session. We thank our distinguished speakers for joining us this evening. Without further delay, we now hand over the virtual floor to our moderator, Professor Ahmed Al-Khatib.
Thank you, Zaid. Thanks for this wonderful introduction. Good evening. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, which is going to be about From Open Content to Personalized Pathways, Open Educational Resources and Artificial Intelligence for Lifelong Learning. We are approaching a transformative moment in the evolution of education. Over the last 2 decades, the open education movement has focused on expanding access, removing financial, geographic, and institutional barriers to knowledge. Through open education resources, millions and millions of learners have been enabled to access high-quality materials freely and openly. This achievement is significant, yet the educational landscape has drastically changed with the emergence of AI. We now live in an era of unprecedented information abundance. Content is everywhere. Courses are shareable instantly and within one click. Learning materials are widely available, yet abundance doesn't equal effectiveness. Access doesn't guarantee mastery and proficiency. Openness doesn't automatically create meaningful learning experiences. Therefore, the key questions we must ask today: how do we move from access to impact and effectiveness? How do we transform open content into more personalized, adaptive, lifelong learning pathways? How do we distinguish between simple access and full personalization. Without any further ado, I would like to begin with our first speaker, Dr. Giovanni Zimotti from University of Iowa, to talk about the first topic of today's webinar. Dr. Giovanni, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm gonna share my presentation. So today I'm gonna be talking about AI enhanced open learning design and adaptive practice. The goal for today is to give you like a glimpse into the future in what teachers and language educators around the world could do by owning the curriculum through open educational resources and then using simple data and local AI to improve the experience of their students. And so those are the three main topics I'm going to touch today: owning the curriculum with open educational resources, using simple data to see how students really learn, and then how to leverage local large language models to support placement and early intervention for students. We already know a lot of advantages of open educational resources, like eliminates financial barriers to our students from giving them access to a textbook from day one. They've been proven to be statistically equivalent or provide superior learning outcomes when compared to traditional textbooks. There is better student retention, and especially they've been shown to help students from vulnerable groups, which have been seeing the greatest benefits of using open educational resources. At the University of Iowa, in the Spanish program, we have been creating our own curriculum with those Spanish textbooks that you can see here in the screen. I'm not going to focus on those textbooks, but this is just an example of how we can use open educational resources in this context. And the main advantage, in my opinion, of using open educational resources is that we own the curriculum. We can adjust, change, mix it however we want based on the student needs, which I'm going to show you what we're looking at, and data-driven evidence. And this is where AI could potentially help us a lot. When talking about this, I'm going to talk about a study that I've been running for the last 2 years. Over multiple semesters, I've been collecting data across all four course sequence semester for my program. So from elementary Spanish 1 to intermediate Spanish 2. In this study, we have around 1,000 students from 4 different levels. So from elementary Spanish 1 to intermediate Spanish 2, I've been collecting multiple type of data at the beginning, at the end of the semester, including explicit grammar through multiple choice questions, and also implicit grammar through short writing tasks. Both explicit and implicit grammar and those tests were taken into a controlled environment, proctored by the professors using a lockdown browser, meaning that the students were not able to use any sort of cheating or external resources. We were checking them to make sure that we were looking into that. Additionally, we were also collecting data about the self-assessment in language to assess proficiency, so students could assess proficiency themselves. And now what we're going to do with this data, it's the most important part. So with explicit grammar, those are like multiple choice questions. This is local, simple data. We could already have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago without AI. And so we look at this data and we are trying to understand what's happening in the curriculum. Are students learning specific grammar points, specific vocabulary? And so what we can see in this example here is this is for intermediate Spanish 1, so the third semester of the sequence, and we can see that for the simple future, there was a slight improvement between beginning and end of the semester. But with another type of future from Spanish, there was an actual decrease in the knowledge that the student learned at the end of the semester. And so by looking at this data and by gathering thousands and thousands of items from our students, we can now adjust the curriculum. And we can adjust the curriculum because we own it, because it's an open source textbook. And so this semester, we've been working with two of the writers of our textbooks to address these, which you can see in the first two columns, address this like negative learning, change the curriculum so that hopefully by the end of this semester, we're going to see an improvement in question 18 instead of a decrease. Then with the spread of AI, what we can do, it's even more, because the implicit learning that we were collecting with the data with 5 open-ended questions that the students were also collecting at the beginning and end of the semester, now we can use those learning paragraphs to assess their language proficiency, which it will be otherwise really hard to access their natural language proficiency without using AI, because we're talking about 1,000 students per semester, 500 students per semester. That will take a professor days and days to assess it manually. But instead, what we're doing is we're using local AI to assess the language proficiency without spending days doing that. And so I ran a study where I just grabbed 100 paragraphs written in Spanish as an L2, and I first had 2 human raters evaluate them and assess the language proficiency. And then I use local large language models. Those are like local version, like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, but we can run them on a computer without the internet. So we are not sending information online to the students, to the cloud. And also, even more importantly, we have control over this assessment. By using a local model, this is replicable. And once I target accuracy of my models, there is no need for me to redo this study that I'm showing you right now multiple times. I know that this is going to work and it's going to tell me the proficiency of the student using this scale over and over and over. And so in this study, I did multiple experiments using analytic rubrics, holistic rubrics, combining 3 models.
القواعد التحليلية والقواعد الشاملة باستخدام هذا النموذج الشامل.
And so I can use
وأيضا بإمكاني أن أستخدم أيضا
the 3 best local models combined
أفضل 3 نماذج مقارنة بالنموذج المدمج.
And the 4th experiment was to use additional
وأيضا
tests.
التجربة الرابعة هو بالقيام باختبارات إضافية
To use additional tests like RAG and
لاستخدام
fine-tuning.
اختبارات إضافية
Dr.
من
Giovanni,
أجل
just one
تحسين.
moment, where I think we're having just a technical issue with the translation.
Okay.
I know it's going over your voice, so just one moment, please, as we fix this issue. Thank you. Dr. Giovanni, please continue. I believe it's solved.
Okay, thank you. So I was talking, we ran 4 different experiments using analytic rubrics, holistic rubrics, combining the best 3 local models, and also additional tests like RAG and fine-tuning to see what we could do with this technology. And what I found out is that local large language models were as consistent as humans. As you can see here, the Pearson R correlation with human 1, which was our baseline. We can see that the consistency of the best single large language model was slightly above the consistency between the 2 humans, and then combining 3 models together was even better. And so secondary finding, also holistic rubrics was better than analytic rubrics. For this specific task, RAG was ineffective, but fine-tuning was effective in improving the performance of a very small model. And now to conclude, what can we do with this? So we can use those assessment that we are completing using AI to do, first of all, we can have a better placement. So we can automate placement of our student using in-person writing assessment and then evaluating those with a large language model. We can also provide early alerts and do some intervention. For example, we can identify at-risk students, students that took the wrong class, and we can move them around at the beginning of the semester, moving them to the right class. And even more importantly, we can do curriculum adjustment based on aggregated data from local large language models and also the simple data I was showing you at the beginning, and keep improving the curriculum in a way that was not possible before. And so to conclude, by using open educational resources, we get the freedom to reorder, recycle, and adapt our curriculum, and also combining these with local large language models and diagnostic data collection, we can have scalable feedback loops, observing changes over semester, and then an easy way and almost free way to access placement and support our students using all this data that we're collecting. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Giovanni, for this interesting and insightful presentation. That was really informative. And I think there is one key lesson from this presentation, which I think is very fundamental and highly to be emphasized, is that AI should be used for serving humanity and also for helping people. And also, I like the different types of rubrics. You use the human rubrics as well as the analytic rubrics. So thank you very much. I have received two questions from the audience, which I would like to hear your comment and your feedback about. So for the first question, which I would like to get your feedback, for someone who's new to open education resources, what does open textbooks mean? And what does changes when students get material from day one for free?
So it's extremely important for me because it allowed me to, first of all, have a different relationship with our students by bringing an open textbook. First of all, we could create a textbook based on our students' needs. And so when you're using a commercial textbook, most likely they're going to be designed and created by a random company that can be any part of the world. Most likely it's going to be far away from your university, from your high school. Instead, when you use an open textbook, you can get and provide experience and even like images that represent the students that are attending your class. So for example, we are in the Midwest, we are far away from the West Coast, East Coast of the United States, where a lot of textbooks are written. And so we can provide content that shows the reality that our student experience instead of showing the reality from some random country far away from us that they will not be able to relate. And so I think that's the most important part of open textbooks.
Very interesting. I just would like to add another question, which I would also like to hear your feedback. If you could add one early alert to help students before they struggle or face any challenges in open education resources, what would it look for, and what support and what support would follow? What are the steps which you think are necessary to be followed?
I mean, they will find the same struggle, like students will find the same struggles as students not using like an open textbook. I think it's mostly the professor that has to work around. Sometimes, the professor will have to adapt the resources, modify them, make sure that they work for their own class. And so I don't think the students will notice much. The only difference for the students will be they don't have to go to the bookstore to buy the book or buy an expensive access code. They receive the book right away. Now the disadvantage is that most likely they're not going to have a printed version of the book, And so the first day of class, the professor should make sure that the resource they are sharing with their students are not only accessible, but the students are using the proper like browser, computer and things to access those, because sometimes maybe one activity, one thing is not going to be working on Safari and is going to be working on Chrome. And so like professors should kind of like spend like 5-10 minutes to make sure that every student can see the resources in the same way.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Giovanni. And there might be more questions which we might get from the audience at the end of the webinar. So thanks again. Now, with a great pleasure, we move to our second keynote speaker, Professor Martin Epinal, who will be talking about the second topic of today's webinar. So he will be shedding the light on how AI would support goal practice feedback and what are the practical applications of AI in open learning ecosystem. So without any further ado, Professor Martin, it's over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the nice introduction, as well as for the nice invitation to speak a little bit about open education resources. First of all, I would give you in the chat just the link to my slides, so you can also just use this link, but of course I will also share it. Just a moment. I have to take a look where my presentation are. This was this one here. So, and I will try to do it in the full mode. So hopefully you can see my slides now. Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm currently professor at Graz University of Technology, and there I have two positions, so to speak. I'm once the head of the so-called Educational Technology Department. And as such, so we are servicing the whole university in terms of e-learning or digital technologies for learning and teaching. And the second position is I'm also senior researcher at an institute called Human-Centered Computing. And my typical research fields are technology-enhanced learning. And there I have a very strong focus to open education resources, massive open online courses, and also, of course, AI in education and something like that. Yeah, and today I would like to talk a little bit about open educational resources and why they are for us the main basis for AI and chatbots or even other AI related applications. And I will show you a little example where we just make some prototypes and see how it's up and running and give some maybe interesting hints what is maybe the whole problem of using of AI in terms of education. Yeah. First of all, I'm talking about an online course. This online course is called Computer Science Make Me Fit or something like that. It's a so-called bridge course at our university. And bridging courses are courses which are in between for students who become our students. So that means they are coming from the school and would like to register at the university. And we have some very topics where we strongly know there might be problems because the pre-knowledge is not so good as expected and something like that. And we are doing this, for example, for computer science, we do it for math, and we also do it for mechanics, for example. Yeah, and this one online course I'm talking about is about for computer science, and the students or the students beginners have to learn about Python as a programming language and should be coming in touch with the first steps of programming. So because the preschools or in school, we have sometimes school children who never had computer science before. And so they have no real pre-knowledge about programming and something like that. And that might be very hard if you're going to study computer science. Yeah, the learning goals. are very global, so to speak, and very introductional. That means, so you see, it's an introduction, information processing, computational thinking, programming with first steps with Python. Then we are talking about internet and digital ethics, for example. And our idea was that there might be an AI chatbot can help, because it's knowledge which is very good, already introduced in chatbots, for example. And of course, we have in this online course, in this massive open online course, videos, for example. We have transcripts, we have a lot of scripts, for example, programming scripts. We have a lot of textbooks and something like that. So there is a lot of material we just have in the background. And what we did here, you can see, for example, this online course. So you can also access it if you like to want, with the URL in the with the URL provided here. And you see, for example, here is just the video. On the left side, you see the modules and how you can access the whole course. And on the right, you see there was a small plus. And if you click on this plus, for example, this chatbot would just appear. And you can, of course, just chat with this chatbot, ask for questions, and of course, the chatbot tries to give you an answer, hopefully the right one. And we have also some master thesis done beforehand with computer science students. They were testing the chatbot, for example, also if there are failures or something like that. And the success rate was 90-70%. So that means there is nearly no real failure of the chatbot. So we really know it works. And the good thing about that is, of course, so we trained the chatbot with our own materials of the course. So everything what was in the course, what was provided by the course, was also training material for the chatbot. Yeah, and this is just also how tips. It's sorry, that's the screenshot is in German, of course, because this is our main language. And the interesting thing is maybe the technical background. What we are using was retrieval augmented generation system. So that means it's in a vector databases where I've filled all our content in. So there's just a databases with all our content. And if the user is just coming and asking a question, then we just make a search query to our vector databases. So is this kind of question of the user who is asking the chatbot, did we have some answers from our materials? Yeah? And if yes, we say, okay, that's great. Then we just take this kind of search, put it to the system prompt and say to a large language model, oh, but please give me and formulate the answer. So that the large language model, for example, ChatGPT or Microsoft Azure, whatever, is just formulating the answer. Yeah. And this is the major point of it. So we are not asking a commercial system for answer. We are just asking, please formulate the answer with the existing content we are providing. And the content, of course, was our content of our course. Yeah, and then the chatbot, the ChatGPT, for example, take just the answer, formulate the answers, and give it to the user back. Yeah, the first thing what we did, of course, was we were just asking the students how it works. And that is just a publication. You can already read online. It was presented at the Human-Computer Interaction Conference last year. And interesting was that those who were using the chatbot, for example, was quite satisfied, so to speak. You see, the most of things we are asking, why did you use the chatbot, for example? Most of them are doing that because they have to do the preparation of the examination. They need, for example, explanations. Sometimes it's just for curiosity. Does it work, for example, or summaries? So that's the main focus why users are using the chatbot. And I would so to speak, about 25% did never use the chatbot. We were also asking them, why did you never use the chatbot? Most of them said, it's not needed for me, because I just watch the videos, I read this textbooks, and that was okay for me. Yeah, and only few ones said it was difficult to access, and some complained about they need more time to get all the materials of this course. Yeah, but in detail, you can read, for example, this final publication. I think there are also some further final interesting results also in. Yeah, and now maybe you are asking, okay, that is a chatbot. You have trained a chatbot, but what does this mean about open educational resources? Yeah, or why I'm talking about OER or why we need OER for that? Yeah, the first thing is that OER as an open education resources, that means as an open licensed content, was used for the training. So at least in Middle Europe, we have a very strict copyright law, and we would not allowed to just train chatbots or LLMs with copyright protected materials. And that would be a problem. Yeah? And therefore we say, okay, our material is completely open licensed. We have used Creative Commons licenses, and then we are able to train. So that is more or less the precondition that we even can use this RAC system in the end. Yeah. Also, if we would not have open education resources, we would not able to train just all the chatbots. So that was more or less the precondition, and OER is a necessity to do so. Yeah, and the next thing is, you see that for the data processing, it was essential that we have, of course, open educational resources, and it works as a basic prerequisite or for ensuring that the data can be used in the end easily. Yeah, but if you take a closer look, for us as an open education researcher, it's also unsatisfactory. Why? Because, of course, we were using a large language model, which is a commercial system. So in our case, we used as a Microsoft Azure. And of course, this LLM is not open source. Yeah, it's we don't know what this kind of large language model is doing with our data. And it would be much better to say, okay, it would be a kind of self-hosted learning large language model and kind of open system. Yeah. And of course, also that is in the sense of digital sovereignty, for example, it's very important also for higher education that we can say, okay, we exactly know which kind of system we are using and what does the system with our data. Yeah, and this is a weakness, of course. Yeah, and that would be more or less a next step to say, okay, now we are not using commercial systems, we are just using open source systems. But there is still one more thing. Yeah, so what we have to consider and have to do in mind, and that's also very interesting that we have to think about that, is that the training data is also not known, even in the open source models, not. So if you are not training your large language model on your own, you don't know with which training starter this model was trained. And that might be also a problem because, if you have very much data, then it's maybe better trained than other large language models. And there we have also to think about what is the training data about. And there is also an interesting project. It's currently in Switzerland. It's called Apertus, and from the huge University of Zurich. And that's interesting because they would like to provide an open source model, and they would also like to provide which data this large language model was trained, so that we exactly know where the knowledge is coming from. And especially for higher education, that it's, of course, very interesting to say, okay, I have to rethink which kind of data is in behind and which answer I can expect. Because if I have only half of the training data as other large language models, then of course, maybe the answer is not so precisely as it would be in the other model. Yeah, and this is the final comment on that, is that even if the training data cannot and will not consist exclusively of open education resources. Yeah, its openness and transparency are prerequisites for quality assured education in the future. And what we are also thinking in our research, of course, is because as you see here, for example, it sounds a little bit utopian or maybe wired, but maybe if we are just going and just trusting large language models, we don't know how it really is working. I can say, no, I studied not at this university. Maybe I studied according to this kind of AI model. And that is, of course, a huge discussion point for the future of education. Yeah, thank you very much for the attention. I think this was my last slide, and I'm happy to answer any questions, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Martin, for this enlightening presentation, which I really personally enjoyed. Just a quick reminder to my dear audience, if you have any questions, either to Professor Martin or Dr. Giovanni, please type it in the chat, and we'll take care of it. So, Professor Martin, based on what you have mentioned, and just you've mentioned that in your presentation you have shown that OER can be used as the basis of the basis of chatbot. But what about for students who did use the chatbot and they have exam preparation, but which of these outcomes do you consider good learning and which worry you about? Do you think that relying on chatbot might cause any type of reliance or laziness? So I just would like to hear your feedback on this issue.
Yes, an interesting question. So what we see in this kind of lecture, it's very basic computer science and basic programming and something like that. And of course, you have to learn programming. And the students were not more or less using the chatbot just in the sense of give me the code back or something like that. So they were more or less asking questions what they don't understand, for example. And then the chatbot works quite fine because it's maybe a different kind of explanation as I can do as teacher. And maybe this is more understandable for the students, or they have the fear to ask me again because they have fear that they are silly or they have not heard to me as sorrowful or something like that. And therefore, they use the chatbot for more or less clarifying their own question. It works more or less as a kind of friend, so to speak, yeah, to say, okay, I would like to clarify and to understand it maybe better or something like that. And of course, there are also some students who would like to give the code back. And that's for computer science not a good solution because you have to learn coding, and just copying code is not learning, of course. And that is just a kind of barrier, but we have to explain to students that you have to learn coding, of course, and not just copying the code, because otherwise it will not work. But I guess it's a matter of time that you understand, okay, that is hard work on my own.
Yeah, interesting. So my other question is related to, getting quick answers sometimes is not useful because this will cause some laziness and will stop the process of thinking. So how would you keep this process of balancing between not getting an immediate answer, but getting it rightly and professionally after quite some after doing some research?
It's also an interesting question. Also, I'm not. So first of all, I would say if you have a problem and I can solve this kind of problem in your brain immediately, then it's perfect for learning. Yeah, because if you just have a problem, you don't know how to do the next step, and you have to ask friends, professors, whatever, and that needs, I don't know, one day, then the learning is not so effective as you would get the answer correctly and immediately. And the chatbot can do that. Yeah. So when you make a good question, then maybe he can give you a good answer, and it can be very effective. The main things is you have to ask a good question, of course, yeah, because otherwise you get bullshit back. Yeah, that's the problem of the bots. Yeah, and the second thing is that it means we need a kind of competency that you really can use this kind of chatbots, yeah, also digital competencies or prompting competencies, whatever, or to understand how the technology works. Yeah. And then, of course, to deepen the knowledge, you have to learn how you can use this technology, especially for your own learning behavior. And that is also in process, as we call that self-regulated learning competencies, that some students can do that perfectly, and they can really work very well with chatbots. Other students have immense troubles in terms of self-regulated learning, because the learning also means that, of course, the chatbot cannot solve my problems. I have to learn it, and I have to understand how to learn. Yeah, and this is one of the hugest research problems we currently have, is how to bring self-regulated learning to the students.
Interesting. Totally agree. I think it's a matter of seeking a balance between what a human can do with the help of AI or chatbot. And it's a matter of learning, and it's a matter of practice. How the best thing, and I think the best thing is how to use AI for the promotion of human thinking. But I know it's not an easy thing. It takes lots of exercise and practice. I would like to thank you again, Professor Martin, for this wonderful and enlightening presentation. And I think there will be some questions which we are going to which I'm going to share with you before the end of this webinar. So without any further ado, we will move to the third topic of today's presentation. Which is going to be about responsible integration of AI and content quality in the AI era. So based on what my colleagues just stated, we are living in in unprecedented time where generative AI and emerging technologies are transforming the nature of education in all its aspects, whether in the area of assessment or in the teaching, in the learning process in general. And that's why I'm going to shed the light on a very important aspect as a result of the emergence of AI, which is responsible AI and content quality and content generation. And I would like just to begin by shedding the light on what the World Economic Forum has presented in one of their recent reports regarding how AI is transforming different learning systems. I know this is related to different skills that are fundamentally needed in the 21st century, but at the same time, this is also related to what we are talking about today. So AI is accelerating this transformation towards making learning more personalized, inclusive, and lifelong learning system. However, it raises new questions related to responsible AI and content integrity, and I think this is a very, very important thing, because there is information everywhere. There is abundance of information. So when it comes to responsible AI and most accurate content, I think this is what we are. This is what we should take care of. So if you just want to briefly define what responsible AI, we can define it just in a very simple term. Responsible AI deals with uh, designing, developing, and deploying AI uh, uh, accurately, taking into account um, uh, different aspects related to ethics, transparency, and data protection. Generative AI is rapidly transforming knowledge creation, as I just stated at the beginning. It has also it's playing a key role in education and assessment, whether in language learning or different aspects of education, or other aspects also, including healthcare and science and different life sciences, as well as digital content production. And this would also complement different initiatives that were initiated by some local authorities here in Saudi Arabia, as well as across the globe. So Sadaya, for instance, has made tremendous work in terms of responsible AI and AI ethics, where they have designed and published lots of reports and frameworks. Uh, Also, the National Center for Artificial Intelligence, they have done the same thing. The National E-Learning System have published lots of, they have published a framework uh, uh, for AI, responsible AI in education, in addition to some other reports which would feed into this major topic. So the challenge nowadays is how to integrate AI while maintaining trust. And I'm talking about public trust as well, because there are some issues with the trust when it comes to AI. Whenever we hear about something about whenever we hear AI, there are always issues coming related to trust. So we need to maintain trust in knowledge and educational content as well. This is not a local issue, it's a global issue. We are talking about a global phenomenon. So in addition to what we have just mentioned regarding the local projects and initiatives and the frameworks, we have as well lots of international frameworks, such as UNESCO recommendation on AI ethics. We have also another framework for using AI responsibly, published by OECD. It's called OECD AI Principles. We have also European Union Artificial Intelligence Act. The primary goal for all these projects, and some of them have taken years to be published and to be officially announced. The primary goal is to use AI responsibly in education and other aspects of life. So these frameworks emphasize fairness, transparency, accountability, and data protection. And this is just a nice diagram summarizing what we are talking about: global as well, local responsible AI. And sometimes this is called AI governance, which I think they can be used interchangeably. They mean the same thing. There might a little or just a slight differences, but at the end of the day, they are almost the same. So whenever we talk about responsible AI, we mean fairness and inclusiveness, transparency, accountability, privacy and security, reliability and safety, ethical considerations. And what I mean by ethical, different types of ethics. And I know this is also a big topic which underpin sub-branches of ethics. In addition to this, we have the human-centric design. And this is very important topic. When we say responsible AI, we should not forget the the role of a human, because at the end of the day, the human should be there. We are talking about social AI. We need to reach a level where AI is just a tool to serve people, to serve the user, not to replace the users. We have also regulatory and compliance. A part of responsible AI is to promote sustainability as well as continuous monitoring. There must be a continuous monitoring for everything we do using AI. It's not just one action or one thing to do. It's an ongoing process. So when it comes to the mechanism of using AI and to integrate it in any organization, we must take into account two aspects: the tech aspect as well as the human oversight. I'm a strongly believer, and I think this is also very important, is to promote what can be done by AI. This should be promoted and escalated, as well as the humans. What can be done by humans should also be escalated. Once we manage to integrate both them, I think we will reach what I think we should reach. So, in order to have a successful responsible AI integration, we need to have governance, either by following or designing certain compliance regulations, as well as a human oversight. There are always humans. A human is like the first layer. The second layer is the tech or AI. So I think it should be like this. It should start by a human in the loop system. AI should support humans to take decisions, but humans should validate the end results. AI transparency policies: users declare when AI tools are used in an academic work, and we should not avoid or hide that something has been. Whenever we use AI, should be clearly declared, not keep it away or not ignore it. And number 3, institutional AI guidelines. This is also very important. So whenever we talk about any organizations, whether institutes, universities, they should develop policies for AI use in teaching and assessment. I think we should be in the middle of adopting AI, but with doing some adaptation. It should start by humans, and then by placing policies, how to use it regularly, accountably, responsibly, with taking into account humans. Of course, the humans should be in the heart of this process. And the entire organization, the ecosystem itself, must adopt certain policies when it comes to how AI is used. For instance, in universities or at universities, they should have guidelines. They should have certain practices where AI can be used. I think, as my colleague Dr. Giovanni stated, AI can be a great tool to be used in assessment, especially if I have a large cohort of students. AI would help a lot, and in just a short span of time, we will get a result and will give an immediate result. So when we talk about AI, responsible AI, we also talk about knowledge production. So knowledge production has recently increased because of the emergence of large language models. We have hundreds of LLMs right now, either in our first language or in different languages. We have different AI systems. We have digital content platforms. We have AI-assisted language learning. So recent studies show that AI tools are increasingly used for learning, writing, and knowledge synthesis. And I'm focusing on large language. I'm focusing on language learning, but this is not only the discipline that has been drastically changed, or the nature of it has been changed because of AI. I know most aspects, most disciplines have been changed with the advent of AI. So now we come to a big issue with AI, that is trust, or public trust. So how to ensure that the content is valid, accurate, and will not cause any negative consequences. We need to have certain dimensions that any institution should avoid, should follow and take it as a priority. Number one, accuracy. Accuracy, and what I mean by accuracy is to provide information as fact-checked. Also, when it comes to bias, we need to reduce any cultural bias or any bias that might result from because of the algorithms. Because sometimes, algorithms might give, some tendencies towards bias. Also, privacy. We need to protect the student and institutional data. This is very important. We know that data right now is a main asset. We have also an issue with transparency. What do we mean by transparency? Transparency might differ from one place to another, or from one context to another. So each institution must have a certain definition for what transparency means to that place or location. What about open licensing and attribution? We need to ensure the reuse of knowledge resources, and this is one of the benefits, and this is one of the goal of what we are talking about today: open educational resources. And there are many more dimensions, principles, values as part of AI-generated content governance. This is just a nice diagram which shows that AI is a great tool if we use it correctly, and if we use it with a high level of awareness in terms of content creation. It would save time. It would give an amazing content. As you see here, we can use it for content generation, whether this is video, audio. It would also support us in terms of language translation, writing a script, content personalization, and this is what we are heading to: how to create a personalized learning experience. And I think this is, without AI, it would be something that would be really challenging. Content optimization as well. This is also because of AI. Without AI, I think this is also, it's something that is really hard. Social media posts and blogs content, every different advantages can be attained because of AI. And I think this is the end of what I'm going to talk about. Thank you for listening, and we are looking forward to if you have any questions or any feedback. Okay, I think now I have an open question which can be answered by my colleagues, either by Dr. Giovanni or Professor Martin. From the audience, how can open educational resources and artificial intelligence be used with different age groups? I think this is a very interesting question. So, any thoughts, Giovanni, Martin?
I mean, what I can say is, like, right now we're thinking about how to use those resources coming from AI. I think as a researcher and educator, it's important that we start first investigating the effectivity of these tools. And so starting studies where we're comparing how is learning using AI, being a chatbot, being whatever it is, versus a traditional way of teaching, like a professor or a textbook, or compared to other things. So I think it's like we are at a point where there is a lot of exploration, a lot of excitement, but all around university, we need to start running studies on actually evaluating the effectiveness in teaching using those new tools. But I think there is potential.
Interesting. So, do you think that there are certain age groups which you think are the best or the optimal age for using open education resources, or it's for everyone, for any age?
I think they will work with any ages, and then it's just a matter of making them appropriate for that age group or motivational group. Because we're thinking about if we're thinking about, I mostly deal with young adult learning languages, so college students, and I kind of like know that area of students, and sometimes may have low motivation or high pressure of passing the class, taking like 5, 6 classes within the same semester, which might have different like expectation than an older adult studying on their own with higher motivation, for which studying on their own using generative AI might be extremely beneficial.
Totally agree. I think this would reinforce the goal of the goal of continuous continuous learning, where learning is for everyone, regardless of his or her age. So thank you, Giovanni. Professor Martin, do you have any feedback, or we should move to another question?
No, also it is of course very, very interesting to address different age groups, so to speak, because the main goal of open education resources was always to teach humanity and to give access to educational material to anyone on the world. And therefore, and that was the beginning of open education resources in 2002. And what we see, for example, there are a lot of challenges. Yeah, a lot of challenges because, of course, you have to have access. Yeah, that means the younger children they have might be problems to get to the internet and to get to the right resources. And for the elderly, for example, we have problems in languages and something like that. So it was a very great idea. And what we see in the daily life is that we have to work, to make it really happen. Yeah. And it's not so easy to say, okay, I just give it for free and here's the access. We see many different kind of challenges in different group of ages. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. We've got many questions, so I'll try to get some of them because we don't have enough time to go through all the questions. So I have a very interesting question regarding data security or data protection, which I think this is a serious issue. So from your own experience, how can how can I ensure data security and the protection of my data in open source uh, uh, in open educational resources? How to how to ensure that my data, my
Yeah,
my
yeah. So
course, fully
the first,
protected.
the first step is of course that you cannot provide any privacy data or something like that to
Mm,
any machine outside. Yeah. Also, what we are currently, for example, working are also that you can have large language models running on your own machine. Yeah, so that you have it more or less on your own. Yeah, and then you can might be also using different kind of sources. Yeah, what might be a little bit more protectable. And of course, the first thing is never give an NI any privacy data. Yeah, I would not do that. Yeah, never.
Giovanni,
I mean,
any
yeah,
feedback regarding this?
similar to that. If we're talking about open educational resources, we are usually like really, I mean, I feel like something to be open education resource needs to be released under like a Creative Commons license that is CC BY. So there is no privacy on that, no protection on that because everyone can do whatever they want with it. Then when we're talking about using AI with student data or stuff like that, we have to like either go hyper local, which is what I've been doing with students' data. Like I do not use them using an API from OpenAI or any other company. I just like use local large language models on my own hardware, on the hardware of the university, so that nothing leaves this kind of like gate from us. And so there is no risk of, I mean, there is still some risk of data leaks, but it's not as big as when you're using like an outside company from your own research.
Yeah, it should be fully protected and well protected because you are dealing with the sensitive data of students. Okay, here I come to another question from the audience. A major barrier is often not the idea. There are abundance of ideas, but the workload and support needed to implement it. And I agree with this. So, from your experience, what support do educators need most to adopt open education resources plus using it with AI in a confident way, uh, uh, with having enough training, and with having a policy clarity, and also with having an experience in terms of technical experience.
So I can
Yeah,
talk a little bit
yeah.
about open education resource adoption. So if you're a teacher, do not start like we did here at Iowa, at our university, by creating all the textbook from scratch. You can start by adopting already created material. So let's say you are teaching English as a second language or English. So you start looking at what's already available. And then your expertise is adapting this textbook that maybe was created in the United States to your student population, to Saudi Arabia. And in that case, you can use already available resources. You might have to integrate images showing like what you want your students to learn, providing like examples that are familiar with what your students understand versus what students in the United States will understand. And for that reason, you can use AI to facilitate that process. And so like you might have to edit images and you can use AI to edit images or creating audios for your students. And in those situations, AI makes your life easier because now you do not need an expert in Photoshop or a video editor expert. You can use AI to make your resources accessible.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. And the first thing is that if we are talking with teachers, for example, and they would like to use open education resources or to produce open education resources, then the first sentence is always, it's more work than you if you just take copyright protected things. Yeah.
Mm.
So you have to redraw something and something like that. Okay, that means it's more work. And that more work, of course, only happens be better in the end, yeah, if you see that others are reusing your content and improving your content, extending your content. Yeah, so sharing means always that you get also from others some things, and then of course. Over the years, yeah, it becomes better and better because we can reuse it as a teacher, we can reuse it as a university, and therefore the more production costs, so to speak, is reliable. And that's the interesting part of the OER part. And one interesting thing, if anyone of outside is interested in, we just started an open online course. You can switch there also for English, where the whole content is just produced by AI. So nothing in this course is done manually, except in my first video, for example, where I'm speaking really myself. The rest is completely AI generated. And the result is that the production itself, yeah, was the same amount of work, yeah, because we have to redesign, we have to check the quality, we have to make the things better, we have to redesign images and something like that. But the interesting part is it's different from typical courses as we just know it from the university. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just take a look.
Yeah, thank you. I think you've taken me back to one of the questions which have also raised by one of the audiences regarding reliance on digital materials. As a teacher, I noticed that Gen Z students are very interested in AI tools. They enjoy learning with technology and are drawn to anything that is digital. The fact that they no longer use printed textbooks says a lot about how their learning style has changed. So I think, do you think this is a serious problem when it comes to keeping the balance between what is printed and what is digital, between soft copy and hard copy?
For me, not. Yeah, for me, it's exactly as for me, the main point is what we're really studying about is what does it mean self-regulated learning, and only if you become a perfect self-regulated learner, then you can use perfectly AI, because then it enhances your learning. Yeah, because you exactly know what are your learning goals, how you have to repeat it, how you have to learn, what is your learning style. That is a part of self-regulated learning. Yeah, and to realize as how I can effectively learn for my own is one of the most important challenges in terms of AI. Yeah, because AI enables you that it can help you, but it can only help you if you really recognize as how to learn effectively in your own style. And that is recently the most important research part we are taking, how we can teach self-regulated learning to students. And then it doesn't matter for me, is it a textbook or it is a video or it's a transcript, it's an audio or something like that.
Thank you. Here is another question which I'm willing to answer about what are the risks of using ChatGPT in education, especially since ChatGPT program lacks ethical standards, doesn't process any ethical values at all in light of recent warnings. Of course, ChatGPT doesn't have or doesn't create the ethics. The ethics are human related. So we as users, we need to create our boundaries for this is part of ethics and this is part of the governance I meant at the beginning. We need to have a set of rules, certain practices, certain of guidelines, when to be used, how to be used, for what to be used. So I know that there are some activities which should not use ChatGPT, especially those which reinforces human interaction, thinking. We must not lose this aspect of humans. But when it comes to something general, in terms of brainstorming, creating ideas, we can use it because this will not affect on the human aspect. So in brief, in order to have or to avoid any risks of using ChatGPT, we need to set rules for the users and for the teachers, for the educators, as well as for the students. I know that most students are using it either in K-12 or in higher education, so they need to be taught how to use it rightly, in the right way, better than just leaving them or asking them not to use it. Any final? I think this is the final question. It could be the final. So any final thoughts before we conclude, Martin, Giovanni?
I only would like to agree to you because the main thing is that large language models can very good give answers you to factual knowledge, yeah, and not to ethical questions, because there can bias, hallucinations, and something like that. And it doesn't rely only to ChatGPT. That is to any large language model, you have the same problem. Yeah, to have the problem that is just a trained machine. Yeah, and a machine cannot answer ethical questions in the end. Yeah, and we should not rely on that, of course. And that is always problematic. That if we just begin to believe machines, yeah, and the machines are just as good as the training starter is. Yeah, that's the final answer.
It's just tool. It's a tool. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it will not replace the humans. Giovanni, any final thoughts before we conclude?
Maybe just one. There was a question in the Q&A talking about if AI is going to replace teachers. I don't think that's possible because it's part of the human nature to want to learn from other people. Oh, and thank you everyone for coming here and having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I personally enjoyed, and I think and the audio And I think the audience have already enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Martin, for your presentations and for shedding the light on those key topics which are really fundamental in today's life. Zaid, the mic is over to you.
Thank you. This evening's discussion has clearly demonstrated the transformative power of shared knowledge and active engagement. We are truly grateful for your presence, which enriched the quality of our dialogue. We hope these insights and perspectives shared throughout the session have provided valuable takeaways for everyone joining us. Our sincere appreciation goes to our esteemed panelists, whose expertise and thoughtful contributions greatly enriched this conversation. We also thank every participant whose engagement helped make this session both meaningful and successful. As we conclude, our focus now turns to continuous improvement and growth. A survey link has been made available in the chat, and we cordially invite you to share your feedback and suggestions. Your feedback is invaluable as we continue to improve our content and ensure future sessions are even more impactful. On behalf of the National E-Learning Center, I'm Zaid Rgeb. Thank you for joining us this evening. Goodbye.